Welcome back to my channel. I would like to confess something some of you might already noticed. My schedule has become a bit erratic. I find it is harder to mess up enough energy to make new videos, especially the recording part. It seems that it takes less time before I felt burned out. I become more interested in the dark content, such as the videos I have been making about human sacrifice of the Song Dynasty, etc. It has been going on for some time. So, what is going on? Then it suddenly dawned on me. It is winter in Australia. Yes, it is all because it is winter in Australia. I'm not kidding. I'm absolutely serious. It might not make sense to you, but it makes perfect sense within the theoretical framework of Taoist philosophy and traditional Chinese medicine constructed within the Taoist philosophical framework. Well, I'll tell you why after my self-introduction. I'm Dr. Gao, a philosopher specialized in classical Chinese philosophies, professional ethics, and philosophy of medicine. I'm also passionate about classical Chinese poetry. I make videos about classical Chinese poetry and history, philosophies, and traditional Chinese medicine. Please click the like button and subscribe my channel. Your support is very important to me. I also offer one-to-one online lessons on these subjects. So, if you would like to know more about Chinese history, philosophy, poetry, and traditional Chinese medicine, please contact me. Here is my email address. Now, back to today's topic. So, what is wrong with me and how it is related to the winter? Well, let me explain the Taoist ideas about maintaining health, as well as the Chinese medical thoughts on mental health based on the Taoist philosophy, by addressing the following questions. How is health, particularly mental health, conceptualized in the Taoist philosophy? What is the role of seasonal changes in maintaining mental and physical health according to Taoist philosophy? How do Taoist medical texts explain the physiological and mental processes of mental health? What are the recommendations made by traditional Chinese medical theory and practice to address mental health issues? So, how mental health is conceptualized in Taoist philosophy? As you might already know, Taoist philosophy does not treat the body and mind as distinct entities. According to Taoist classics, human life is sustained by the qi and blood flow that courses through the vital organ systems and supports both physical and mental functions of a person. Whether a person is healthy or not depends on how effective his qi and blood flow support the harmonious interaction among the different organ systems, and how well the organ systems adapt to the seasonal changes. This line of thought is best articulated in an early Han Dynasty text, Huainanzi, or Master Huainan. This text was presented to Emperor Liu Che in 139 BCE by the king of Huainan, Liu An. Liu An was a grandson of the Han Dynasty founder Liu Bang. His father, Liu Chang, was the younger brother of the fifth Han Emperor Liu Heng. But Liu Chang was exiled for treason in 174 BCE when Liu An was only 5 years old. Liu Chang killed himself during his exile. 10 years later, Emperor Liu Heng carved up the territory of Huainan Kingdom into 3 small kingdoms and awarded the largest one under the title of King Huainan to Liu An. Liu An loved reading and music and was a scholar himself. He gathered several thousand scholars, engineers, alchemists, swordsmen, and many other people with talents at his court. One of the major projects his scholar accomplished was the Encyclopaedia Huainanzi, or the Encyclopedia of Master Huainan. The book consists of 21 volumes, covering all the known knowledge, including the most advanced medical knowledge of the time. Thoughts on human body, mental and physical health, and disorders are discussed in many volumes. But most of the medical discussion is presented in Volume 7 in the title of 精神训, or a treatise on the body and the mind. Huainanzi, or the Encyclopedia of Master Huainan, was translated into English in 2010 by John Major and others. I have posted the link to this book in the description section if you would like to check out this book. In Huainanzi, both mental and physical health are articulated in terms of qi and blood flow. The terminology used are jing and shen. Jing often represent one's energy level, as in the phrase of 精力 or energy. I have explained the term shen before. Here's the link to my video clip for this term. It suffices to say here that shen often refers to a person's cognitive functions, such as thinking, memory, reasoning, and decision-making, etc. So, shen can be roughly rendered as mind. I also need to point out that shen has a religious origin, referring to the gods of heaven and earth, as well as human beings' ability to feel and perceive the divine power, even participate in God's creation. So, I also translate shen as illuminated insight in some places. In the following quote from Huainanzi, I translated 精神 as the body and mind. Now, let me read the quote in Chinese first, and then followed by my translation adapted from John Major's translation. 淮南子，精神训第七。是故血气者，人之华也；而五脏者，人之精也。夫血气能专于五脏而不外越，则胸腹充而四欲省矣。胸腹充而四欲省，则耳目清，听四达矣。耳目清，听四达，谓之明。五脏能属于心而乖，故博志胜而行不辟矣。博志胜而行不辟，则精神盛而气不散矣。精神盛而气不散，则理，理则均，均则通，通则神。神者，以视无不见，以听无不闻也，以为无不成也。是故忧患不能入也，而邪气不能袭。Master Huainan, A Treatise on the Body and the Mind, Volume 7. Hence, the blood and qi flow is the blossom of a person. The 5 organ systems are essential for the person's health. When the blood and qi flow courses through the 5 organ system without a stray, a person's chest and abdomen are replenished, and his or her lust and desires are reduced. When a person's lust and desires are reduced, the ears and eyes are clear, and his or her hearing and vision are acute. When the ears and eyes are clear, and the hearing and vision are acute, it is called clarity. When the mind governs the 5 organ systems, they function harmoniously. The person's body and mind thrive. His or her actions are without error. When a person's body and mind thrive, and his or her actions are without error, the body and mind flourish, and their qi does not dissipate. When a person's body and mind flourish, and the qi does not dissipate, the person's actions are aligned with the cosmic pattern. When the person's actions are aligned with the cosmic pattern, he or she is in harmony. When a person is in harmony, he or she is connected with the cosmos. When all is connected, he or she obtains illuminated insight. When a person obtains illuminated insight, there is nothing he or she can't see when looking. There is nothing he or she can't hear when listening. There is nothing he or she can't accomplish when acting. Hence, anxiety and sorrow could not enter their hearts, and aberrant qi could not harm them. This is a very long and complicated quote. Now, I'll unpack it into the following 4 claims. 1. The blood and qi flow is essential for sustained functioning of the 5 organ systems, which refers to the 5 vital organ systems of heart, liver, spleen, lung, and kidney. The Chinese medical conceptions of these organs are different from Western medicine. They do not refer to the specific organs, but the 5 systems that perform 5 types of essential physiological functions. They are the heart system driving the qi and blood flow, the liver system generating and regulating the blood flow, the spleen system digesting food and distributing nutrition throughout the body, the lung system operating and regulating respiratory function, and the kidney system operating and regulating reproductive function. 2. By way of supporting the functions of the 5 organ systems, a person's blood and qi flow has a huge impact on one's mental state and his or her ability to regulate their emotions. As you might know, the Taoist philosophy has a strong negative attitude against activities that trigger excessive emotions, such as overeating, excessive hunting, or overindulgence in sexual activities, etc. Harmonious blood and qi flow naturally strengthens one's control over one's desire. Hence, avoid excessive emotions such as excitement, sadness, anxiety, fear, or anger. 3. Harmonious blood and qi flow is also essential for one's mental health as well as cognitive functions of the mind. Here, The clarity is not just that one can see and hear clearly, but also about thinking clearly, making the right decision, and taking the right actions at any given circumstances based on a clear understanding of the situation. 4. Properly functioning vital organ systems, effectively regulated emotions and mental state, and a clear mind form a bigger feedback whole, that each of the subsystems rely on the other system to function properly, and the physiological foundation of all three subsystems is the harmonious blood and qi flow. All four claims are very important for our understanding of the Taoist philosophy on mental health. There is also another claim made in the Taoist philosophy on health. That is, we should adapt our physical activity and mental states to the seasonal changes in order to achieve physical and mental health. This idea was first articulated in detail in another Taoist text, 吕氏春秋, or the Chronicle of Master Lü. I have posted several videos about Master Lü and his grandeur work, 吕氏春秋, or the Chronicle of Master Lü. Here's a link to my first video. For the moment, it is sufficient for us to recall that he was the sponsor of the first emperor's father before he was old enough to govern the kingdom of Qin. In other words, Master Lü Buwei was the philosopher king when he ruled the Qin kingdom. 吕氏春秋, or the Chronicle of Master Lü, was intended as the manual for training the first emperor Yingzheng before he was capable of taking over the throne. So, this text had a huge influence at the Qin and early Han Dynasty during the formative years of classical Chinese medical theories. So, aligning one's mental state and physical activities with the seasonal changes became an essential part of the theoretical framework of traditional Chinese medicine. Here is a quote from this text. 吕氏春秋，季春季，晋数，天生阴阳寒暑照施，四时之化，万物之变，莫不为利，莫不为害。圣人察阴阳之宜，辨万物之利以变生，故精神安乎形，而年寿得长矣。长也者，非短而续之也，必其数也。必数之物，在乎去害。大喜、大怒、大忧、大恐、大哀，五者皆神则生害矣。故犯养生，莫若知本，知本则几无有志矣。Chronicle of Master Lü, the third month of spring, counting all the numbers. The heavenly qi generates the seasonal changes of yin and yang, cold winter and hot summer, dry autumn and wet summer, and the 10,000 things change with them. These changes could either be beneficial or harmful. The sage scrutinizes the appropriate timing of the yin and yang, recognizes the benefits of the 10,000 things to secure his or her life. Hence, his or her mind and body are at ease and extends their lifespan. This extension of lifespan is not a matter of lengthening a short life, but living out their heavenly allotted lifespan. The goal of living out their heavenly allotted lifespan entails warding off harmful things. Excessive joy, anger, anxiety, fear, and sadness are all harmful to the mind. For nurturing life, none better than knowing the root. Knowing the root, then illness has no cause to arise. All these ideas are integrated and articulated systematically to form the philosophical framework for traditional Chinese medical theorization and clinical practice in the most important medical text, Huangdi Neijing, or the Yellow Emperor's classic of internal medicine. I have posted 4 quotes about the principles of maintaining physical and mental health on the community page earlier. Today, I would just read 2 of them. 黄帝内经述问士气调神大论篇第2冬3月此谓必长水冰地彻无扰乎阳早卧晚起必待日光此志若浮若起若有失意若已有得去寒就温无泄皮肤使气极夺此冬气之应养生之道也逆之则伤肾春为痿厥奉生则少 The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine Plain Questions Regulating the Mind During the 4 Seasons Chapter 2 The 3 months of winter are the time for closure and hibernation. Rivers freeze, ground cracks. Do not disturb one's yang qi. A person should go to sleep early and get up late when the sun is shining. Lay low and hide his or her intention just like keeping quiet about a private affair, and act as if one has obtained what one wants. One should avoid cold places and stay close to a warm place. Avoid sweating and losing yang qi through the open skin pores. This kind of behaviors resonates with the qi of winter and is in harmony with the Tao of nurturing and preserving yang qi. Going against this injures the kidney system and leads to weakened and cold limbs in the following spring, and reduces one's vitality in the following year. As you can see from this quote, winter is the season for rest and recharging one's vitality, so one will be ready for the upcoming spring. So, I'm supposed to do less and rest more. Now, let's compare this with what one should do during spring. 黄帝内经述问士气调神大论篇第2春3月此谓发陈天地俱生万物以荣夜卧早起广步于庭披发缓行以使自生生而勿杀予而勿夺赏而勿罚此春气之应养生之道也逆之则伤肝夏为寒变凤长则少 The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine Plain Questions Regulating the Mind During the 4 Seasons Chapter 2 The 3 months of spring are the time for sprouting and growth. Heaven and earth renew themselves and the 10,000 things thrive. A person should sleep late and get up early. Take large steps in the courtyard, loosen the hair and relax the body so that the mind expands. One should nurture life, but not kill, give but not take, reward but not punish. Thus, resonate with the qi of spring and be in harmony with the Tao of nurturing life. Going against this injures the liver system and leads to cold disease in the following summer, and will have little to support the growth in the following year. As you might notice from this quote, not only should we act differently at different seasons, we should also change our mindset at different seasons. During the winter, we should put things on hold and be content with what we have achieved. We should preserve our energy and vitality rather than spend them on ambitious plans. This mindset is in stark contrast to that of spring. During the spring, we are expected to relax our bodies and open our mind. Be ambitious and generous. Spring is the time to spend the energy and the vitality we preserved during the winter. Apparently, this Taoist view on mental health is based on their view of being in harmony with the changing world by adapting to the cyclical changes of the seasons in general. However, modern life does not allow much room for us to do this. We are expected to perform the same way during winter as in the other three seasons. No wonder our bodies and minds play up. The two quotes I just cited point out to the physiological symptoms we might suffer if we do not synchronize our behaviors and mindsets with the seasonal changes. So, what would happen to our mental health? Well, that is a complicated story. Traditional Chinese medical texts do not have a category for conditions of mental disorder, but they do have a category of medical conditions overlapping with what are classified as mental disorders in Western medicine. This is the category called 郁症, which is roughly an equivalent to most of the mental disorders recognized by Western psychology, such as depression, anxiety disorder, and schizophrenia, etc. When Western medical literature on mental disorder was introduced to China, the Chinese medical practitioner borrowed many terms from the West. So their understanding of mental disorder is similar to that of Western medicine. However, the Chinese doctors' concepts of mental disorders is also informed by traditional Chinese medicine. So their understanding of mental disorder also differs from the West in some significant respects. If you are interested in this topic, there is a great book by Dr. Zhang Yanhua, published a few years ago. I have posted the link to this book in the description section. It is too hard to cover all the terminology and their meaning in this short video, so I'm going to just talk about depression as an example. The Chinese term for depression is 抑郁症. The oracle bone scripts of Yi is a picture of a hand grabbing the head of a kneeled down person. So the character literally means to control or force someone into submission. The oracle bone script of Yu is a picture of a person stands on top of another person between two trees, indicating either one person is beating up the other person or raping him or her. How violent! The character yu is often mistaken as the other yu since ancient time because they look so similar, and they are both simplified as yu in modern Chinese. However, they have very different meanings. Anyway, the character yu is often used to describe a state of stagnation or blockage, while the character yu means flourishing or thriving, used to describe the luxuriant plants. So you might want to make a note of the difference. The character 症 usually means symptoms, as in the phrase of 症状 or symptoms. Here it is just used as a term to convert the verbs into a noun to represent the name of the disease. So, 抑郁症 is the medical term for depression in modern Chinese. 郁症 is also labeled as 情志之郁, or the blockage of feelings and emotions in classical medical texts. It's often defined as a positive feedback loop that excessive emotions disturb the normal qi and blood flow, which in turn reduces a person's ability to regulate and control their emotions, leading to experience of more excessive emotions and further damaging the qi and blood flow until one completely lost control of their feelings and emotions and act out their strong emotions such as anger, panic, or suicidal thoughts. This excessive emotion can be triggered by any strong sensory stimuli such as overindulgence in flesh pleasure, or overexerting oneself physically or mentally, abnormal weather, physical injuries, sudden changes in one's living condition or social status. In other words, stresses from one's life. Here is another quote from Huainanzi, or Master Huainan. 淮南子，精神训第七。夫孔窍者，精神之护有也；而气滞者，五脏之始后也。耳目言语声色之乐，这五脏摇动而不定矣。五脏摇动而不定，则血气滔荡而不休矣。血气滔荡而不休，则精神驰骋于外而不守矣。精神驰骋于外而不守，则祸福之至，水乳山丘，无有时之矣。Master Huainan, A Treatise on the Body and Mind, Volume 7. The apertures of the body are the portals of body and mind. Qi and intentions are the emissaries and servants of the five organ systems. When the ears and eyes are enticed by the joy of sound and beauty, the five organ systems are shaken and unstable. The blood and qi flow is incessantly ebbing and flowing. When the blood and qi flow is incessantly ebbing and flowing, the vitality of the body and mind stray outwards and is not preserved. When the vitality of the body and mind stray outwards and is not preserved, when fortune or misfortune arrives, even though they might be as obvious as hills or mountains, the person would not recognize them. What is really interesting from this quote is the close connections established among lifestyles, emotions, blood and qi flow, functions of vital organ systems, cognitive functions, and the behavior. We all know by instinct that our moods affect our physical state. However, Due to the dichotomy of mind and body in the Western philosophy, disorders in our mind and body are treated separately by psychiatry or psychology and biomedicine. And mental disorders, especially before they become clinically serious, are rarely connected to our physical and physiological symptoms. I recall a joke I read a long time ago. A patient with mental issues visited his family doctor, and the doctor told him he was imagining it. Of course, with more research into neurology and brain chemistry, Western modern medicine certainly achieved a much deeper understanding about the connection between our mind and body and the interdependence between the physical and mental health than ever. However, because the holistic view about the human health in Taoist philosophy and traditional Chinese medicine, I believe their insights about the mental health could offer much help for us to address mental health issues today. Here is another quote from this text. 黄帝内经述问士气调神大论第二，故阴阳是时者，万物之终始也，生死之本也。逆之则灾害生，从之则科技不起，是谓得道。道者，圣人行之，愚者配之。从阴阳则生，逆之则死，从之则治，逆之则乱。反顺为逆，是谓内格。是故圣人不治已病，治未病；不治已乱，治未乱，此之谓也。夫病已成而后药之，乱已成而后治之，必有可而穿井，斗而助锥，不亦晚乎？ The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, Plain Questions. Regulating the Mind During the Four Seasons, Chapter 2. Yin Yang and the Four Seasons are the ending and beginning of the 10,000 things, the root of life and death. Going against the yin-yang rhythm harms life. Following it, then serious diseases do not break out. This is called being with the Tao. Tao is what a sage practices, but an ignorant person decorated him or herself with. Following the yin-yang rhythm, one lives. Going against it, one dies. Following it in politics, a state gains political order. Going against it, a state falls into chaos. Going against yin-yang rhythm is called internal conflicts. Therefore, a sage do not treat a patient who is seriously sick, but treat him before he or she gets sick. The sage does not deal with a riot, but dissolve it before it breaks out. Treating someone who is already sick, or surprising a riot when it is already in progress, is like digging a well when one is thirsty, or forging a sword when the battle already started. Isn't it too late? From this quote, it is clear that a person should address a health issue, whether it is physical or mental, long before it becomes serious. To maintain one's health is to adapt oneself to the seasonal changes, as well as changes in life in general. Another important claim made in this quote is that prevention is the best medicine. one should pay close attention to one's physical and mental state, as well as one's circumstance, so that one can adapt oneself to the ever-changing world. Informed by the Western medicine and traditional Chinese medical theories, contemporary Chinese medical practitioners often integrate what they learned from Western medicine with their rich knowledge from classical medical texts when diagnosing or treating mental disorders. For instance, the classical medical texts often make the connection between depression and the misfunction of the liver system. According to classical medical texts, liver system is responsible for generating and regulating blood flow. Late winter and early spring is the time when the liver system is under pressure to generate enough young energy to support a person's increasingly intense physical and mental activities for making plans and implementing them for the whole year. If a person did not take caution to preserve his or her energy and rest enough, or overexerting themselves during the winter, over time this will lead to deficiency in the qi and the blood flow. As spring arrives, when the body and mind are naturally getting ready for more actions, if a person's qi and blood flow is already depleted, this natural cause will impose more stress on the liver system and further worsens a person's ability to control and regulate his or her emotions, showing symptoms of depression. I suspect this is what I'm experiencing for a while. Of course, I'm oversimplifying things here. I have contacted my friend, the senior Chinese medicine practitioner, Dr. Ray Takir, and planned an interview with him about how mental disorders are diagnosed and treated in his practice. I have done a face-to-face interview about traditional Chinese medicine with him a year ago. Here's the link to the video. Now I'm planning my interview with Dr. Ray Takir on mental health. If you guys have any questions about how traditional Chinese medicine conceptualize, diagnose, and treat mental health problems, I'm more than happy to include your questions into my interview question list. Please send your questions either to my email or post them in the comment section down below. I'm Dr. Gao, a philosopher specialized in classical Chinese philosophies, professional ethics, and the philosophy of medicine. I'm also passionate about classical Chinese poetry and philosophy and make videos about the classical Chinese poetry and history, philosophies, and traditional Chinese medicine. Please click the like button and subscribe my channel. Your support is very important to me. I also offer one-to-one online lessons on this subject. So, if you would like to learn more about these subjects, please contact me. Here's my email address. Thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you next time.